Hello, folks. I just wanted to get some things off my chest today. I'm feeling kind of heavy, but it's all right. It's a good day anyway. For folks who don't know, I won't be showing my face just for a second. I need a little bit of space to be able to deliver this message. I tried to use AI, and it's very difficult to use AI um, for free, like with success. So. I'm a victim of narcissistic abuse, not only by my family and my exes, multiple, but also by my church. Unfortunately, there are very many people who uh, tend to discredit my story because I am neurodivergent, which is just divergent, which is different from the norm. When we use English, that's how things work. You can remove, you can add, suffix, prefix, etc., etc. I studied English and communications because I'm such a big fan of communication. So, for my people who are out there who don't know the signs of narcissistic abuse, I wanted to give you a list because I wasn't sure and it ended me up in some difficult situations. So, the first one is love bombing. Usually that means they show you a lot of affection up front. If you're somebody who is not used to having people be affectionate with you, love bombing can work and can pullly quick you quickly pull you in. And sometimes, if you are somebody like myself, you're kind of trusting, even though you don't have any reason to trust people because they've abused you in the past. But a new person shouldn't abuse you because they shouldn't have any reason. Another thing that happens is gaslighting. My ex often used to do this where they would flip everything on me and say that I was making them feel bad about mm, about they would make me feel bad for asking them to help me clean the house. It wasn't that I was asking them to clean the house alone. I was asking them if we could tidy the house together, and often it became an argument about their dad, and I'm not sure how it always ended up there. So that's an example of gaslighting. People who ignore your boundaries, somebody who goes in for a hug when you don't want one. There are also folks who are people will project. So this is Darvo, which is deny that they did anything wrong, then attack you, saying that you did something wrong. Then they reverse victim attack. So they reverse it back onto the victim and then somehow make that person the offender. So they shift the blame onto the victim and then use guilt to damage that person's credibility. So if you are already somebody who has dealt with damaged credibility or people telling you that you're not worth listening to, then sometimes you believe that because you just assume that you're not worth listening to or being heard. This is very difficult for me in particular because I don't talk that much. I do a lot of writing. I'm usually in my head. I like to sing, but my ex told me, "You stop singing." And that's when I realized that I was sad and I was depressed and I need to figure out something for myself. All right, another thing is nitpicking. They call this negging in the dating world. Shifting responsibility and blame. So my most recent ex would nitpick. They would say, um, you didn't do the dishes or you didn't do the laundry when I worked a full-time job and they were quote unquote retired, which just means that they were sitting in my house not doing anything, but perhaps hurting me. I'm not sure. I believe that they probably took some money from me. Not super sure how this all works, but I'm sure that somewhere down the line I'll find out that people haven't been honest with me and they don't communicate well, which is difficult for me because when I communicate, I'm very direct. If you're not directing your communication, I don't know if you're asking a question or if you're making an assumption. All right. And then narcissistic abusers often deflect responsibility and shift blame onto the victim. So then the victim becomes the victim doubly. So then they feel sad and hurt as a victim. As somebody who is surviving active abuse, you tend to have a thick skin. But people tell you that you don't have a thick skin, but until they realize how thick your skin is, they wouldn't understand. Often these folks will create a constant fear of uncertainty, so making you feel like without them you'll have nothing. Without them you won't be able to survive. My ex explicitly told me, you will never find anybody else like me, and I pray and hope to God that I don't. So, another note is that the narcissistic abuser usually exploits the emotional vulnerabilities of your victim. So if you are somebody who's already suffered from emotional abuse, you are emotionally vulnerable. My most recent relationship, I was leaving. I I took I decided to get divorced last year. So this year I've been pending my divorce, thankfully. And some abusers will use intimate knowledge, sensitive information, even videos shared in trust to manipulate or emotionally wound people. Their exploitation of you can deepen your dependency and weaken your ability to resist control. This is how a lot of folks get sex trafficked because they get put into a situation wherein they don't have all of the finances that they need to get by. And so sometimes somebody tells them, hey, you can do this or you can do that. And then all of a sudden you're running down the river of gang violence and like legit like red, blue, white, whatever gang violence. So then so this is just a story, a little blurb that I wanted to add, but I'll add that later. So this exploitation can deepen your dependency and weaken your ability to resist their control. When you are often alone, you kind of grasp for straws. You hope that somebody comes along and chooses to engage in a valuable relationship with you because you know that yourself, you're valuable because on the inside, you know you're valuable. But people on the outside don't tend to recognize your brilliance. So you keep it enclosed inside until you're able to express it in the right fashion. So mm, um, I was abused by spiritual abuse is also abuse. This is also very important notation because it is not just physical, emotional, sexual, et cetera, abuse. Spiritual abuse is when you use dogma to on emotionally vulnerable populations to keep them into your fold, to keep them under wraps, to keep them quiet, to keep them satiated with these other tools of narcissistic abuse. And if folks are coming from the church wherein they were already narcissistically abused, perhaps in the church or by their parents who were a part of the church, this is something that can happen. So, um, I am a citizen of the United States, but I'm also a sovereign person. I'm ready to travel. I'm ready to go all the time. I could only find support in the church. So I went to a rigorous Christian college. I met my spouse there. I wasn't sure if I was aware that that person was a narcissistic abuser, but they were also hurt by the church, so we bonded over that. So I met many people dealing with this kind of abuse, even though we couldn't escape from our personally abusive situations. So we really were just like swimming in the water of our own demise. Is it our demise or is it the ones who have caused that demise? So, according to Margaret Thaler Singer, an American psychologist and expert on cult psychology, there are 6 conditions which must be present to some degree in order for cult leaders to succeed with thought reform, which is what spiritual abuse is. It's thought reform. Okay. 6 are: 1, keep the individual unaware that there is an agenda to control or change this person. All right. There's the second one is control their social and physical environment, including their social media and also their work time. Create a sense of powerlessness, fear, and dependency. When you're afraid, you don't want to talk. You want to keep to yourself. You want to stay warm. You want to make sure that you're able to step into another day. When you are in survival mode, you always put one step in front of the other, but sometimes you don't think about how you're putting those steps in front of the other. You're just moving on autopilot. So then they create a system of rewards, punishments, and experiences in such a way as to inhibit behavior that reflects the individual's former social identity. So to implement a system of rewards, punishments, and then they also implement a system of rewards, punishment, and experiences like church functions and things like that as a way to promote the learning of the group's ideology or belief system by using group approved behaviors. Again, social conditioning, um, assimilation, socialization. And then they create a closed system of logic. So my spiritual pantheon is not monotheistic. I'm a polytheistic worshiper. I worship the air, I worship the sun, I worship myself, I worship my ancestors. I don't worship just one person, one thing, or one God, because we are all gods. We are all made in God's image, and everything that we do on this earth is something that we have created together. So it's best for us to create things together that are fruitful. So I believe that um, the Christian and specifically some of the Catholic Church structures use these particular tactics to really murder or excuse me, red rum, the minds and spirits of people of the Americas. I encourage the international community to support the survival of Black Americans here in the United States because it's really difficult here. It does feel like things are getting real tight, and I'm not super sure why. I mean, I do know why. Tomorrow is election day. So elect and vote well. Vote with the person who you think the least of in mind. Ask not what you can do for your country, okay? Or what your country can do for you. You should ask yourself, what can you do for the people of the country? And use your vote in the way that makes sense to allow the people of that country to thrive. Because generally, if people in a place are removed, you tend to get a lot of conflict, and conflict hurts bodies and people. And then you take all the things from the earth that are there, but you don't replace them. So then you don't have an earth to go back to. So, what are we all going to do if nobody is here to tend to the earth? So, care for the people who are tending your earth through your vote and through your spirit, and know what right and wrong is and how to treat human beings, how to make sure that they are all living well.